It's been some time since the primary election now, so how do you feel currently?
Number one, I feel relieved to know who I'm running against.
Yeah.
And number two, I really think that there's opportunity here for me to, in my campaign, to move forward. As you know, during the Democratic primary, 60% of the voters did not support Mark Elrich. And actually 40% voted or supported David Blair. And my positions and David Blair's positions are very similar. I also have some commonalities with Hans Riemer, who got 20% of the vote. And Hans was a fan of fixing the American Legion Bridge, as well as bringing 5G to the county. I favor both of those. Also, the independents have not been heard from yet, and they are 25% of the electorate. And typically they break about 70% toward the conservative side. So if we add 70% of the Blair voters, like 20% of the Riemer voters, the 70% of the independents, and some of the Republicans, I win. And that strategy works throughout the county, especially up county in certain areas where David Blair did very well.
Even though maybe your campaigns or your ideas share similarities, it's still a heavily Democratic county. So, what's your strategy? How are you going to try to court these Blair and Hans Riemer voters?
Well, the biggest thing is to get the message out. Again, my positions are very similar to that of David Blair. And so if I can get the message out that we want to support the police, that we want to make sure we have school resource officers in our schools, that we want to make sure that the education of our children is paramount, because I think that under Mark Elrich, we've defunded the police, we've removed SROs out of the schools, we've compromised our children's education, and we've lost a lot of jobs to Northern Virginia. For example, we have, as I understand it, 35% of the IT jobs that we had in the county have gone. Montgomery County is responsible for 38% of the job loss in the state of Maryland, just here in Montgomery County. And whereas I understand there's some issues during COVID, Mark Elrich has been in office for 4 years. COVID was only 2 years. So the prior 2 years, there's issues, and part of my campaign will be bringing those issues to the voters.
Talking a lot about public safety and businesses, economic development. Have you spoken to public safety leaders, maybe economic development leaders in the county?
Yeah, actually, for example, I've actually reached out to a few folks. I'm not going to drop their names just yet, but I've reached out to a few folks because I think it is important, and I think that, again, I acknowledge that I don't have all the answers for everything, but I think we have the talent here in Montgomery County to come up with better solutions than we have.
What is your message to these, Democrats, independents, other voters who are unhappy with another Elrich nomination? What is your message to them?
We need to get past identity politics. We need to stop worrying about whether someone is black or white, or where they're from, or whether they have an R or D after their name, and elect the best person for the job. And I think that if we can do that, if I can get people to realize that we need to get past these labels, then I think they'll come over and say, hey, Sully will do a good job. Sully's positions match mine. Sully's positions and direction forward are the best thing for the county. Then I can secure their vote.
If you were elected county executive, what changes would you make to make sure that the county is not divided?
I think first of all, we need to begin to have open conversations. And whether it be having the parents who want to understand what's going on in their children's schools, in the curriculum. I'm not afraid to have a conversation with anybody. I believe you need to have an intellectually honest conversation. I have no problem going down, walking down to a councilman's office, knock on the door and say, hey, we need to have a conversation about this. And I think that's the first thing, is we need to be able to work together and determine, again, some common ground and move Montgomery County forward.
Do you think voters will be able to, do you have faith that they will cross party lines and vote Republican?
I would say if they cross party lines, or that they just vote for the best candidate regardless of whether they have an R or D after the name, whether they're black or white, or whether they're tall or short, it doesn't matter. It's basically the person who's going to do the best job and represent their interest in the county. It just goes back to, there's a lot of people that are not happy with Mark Elrich. And if we can get people to get past the obvious of the R and the D, then we have a chance to change the trajectory here in Montgomery County. And that's why I'm running, that's why a lot of the other folks on the ticket are running, because at some point, if you're upset, you write notes to people and you write letters, but it's not doing any good. The county council and county executive are not listening to somebody writing letters or doing a little post thing on Facebook. They don't listen, they don't care. They don't have to. But if you can, at some point you need to get out from behind the keyboard and get in the ring. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened to me. There was, whether it be the initial bag tax, which I was like, where's this money going? It's not going to cleaning up the streams. And then the energy tax. I actually found there's a video of Mark Elrich in Annapolis asking for money. And he was, shall we say, pressing, because when grilled about where did that money go? Where did the money go for the energy tax? And I believe he was getting $130 million of money from Pepco. Where's that money going? And he admitted under oath that it was being swept into the general fund. I was at one of the fairs up county, and I was really taken aback by some of the stories I heard about some of the regulations and some of the rules, to the point where what's being imposed on some of these smaller vendors is not going to allow them to come to the parade of the fair next year. There are so many rules and regulations. When you talk to the people down county about the construction, what they're building, what's being imposed on these people by Mark Elrich and the county council, for example, their green policies that they're getting ready to put into play, it's going to be far in excess of what happens in the state of Maryland, and it's going to continue to drive businesses away from Montgomery County. I'm incredibly simple, but you know something? All this does not have to be that difficult. If people stop playing games, let's work together to find the best solutions. And, I think let's simplify. Was it Einstein said, make things as simple as they can, but no simpler.
For the latest Montgomery County election news and information, go to mymcmedia.org and click Election 2022.